Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast that is part of the Oakbridge Community Radio program. I'm Chris Daly, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with Mr. Joe Bly. Joe, how are you doing today?
Hello. Hey, doing great. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing so good. Thank you so much for asking. It's going to be a little bit of a weird adjustment for me. This is actually the first show I've done in 60 some odd shows where I'm not wearing my glasses. I got contacts recently, so this is it's going to be exciting.
Trust me, I've got a face made for radio,
Ah.
as they say. So, yeah, good thing you don't have the glasses on.
I usually do, but today I just decided to be crazy and let's try the contacts out for a spin.
Oh, no.
It'll
Oh,
be all right though. It'll be okay. Okay, so
uh,
usually I like to start these things with an icebreaker question. So today's question, Joe, is if people started to colonize Mars, would you be interested in going? Why or why not?
no, there's no trees on Mars.
Okay,
There's
that's
not going to
fair.
be any dogs on Mars.
That's fair.
Um, yeah, it's no.
That's
No,
fair.
we need to solve the problems facing our planet here now on this planet. Running away is not going to solve things. So,
That's a fair statement. Yeah, I think for me, I would kind of be in the same boat too. I guess it would just kind of depend on some of the other stipulations, like if my family could go or if it was just going to be me, just certain things like that. I mean, back when I was a younger man, before I had a family, it would be a little bit different, probably, but I'm getting too old and too tired to do that kind of exciting, adventurous stuff. Like I said, the most exciting thing I've done recently is get contacts, so that kind of just shows you how exciting I am.
yeah, there you go. And not to
Yeah.
mention on Mars, the cable bill is going to be killer.
Oof, I didn't think about that. And Wi-Fi is definitely going to be an issue too.
Yeah, just so you dial up to watch Rings of Power, and it's going to take, well, the third age of Middle Earth to just download it.
It's true. It would be faster just to read it, probably. All right, sir. So the concept of the show, Fueled by Weird, is basically just all of the things you're into, your hobbies, your interests. They come together to make you who you are. So what are some of the things you like to do for fun?
Believe it or not, sound editing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I went to college for um sound, light, and scene design.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so officially, I was a scenic design major,
That's
um,
cool.
but I just love, well, not only the artistic, but the technical aspects of doing sound and light. Um, it just absolutely fascinated me in college. Loved doing it, and so to pursue that uh, college uh, education, I went and became a paramedic
Oh,
for
wow.
25 years.
That's cool.
And I don't want to say that I abandoned my college education, but, like they say, college teaches you how to think on your own, critical thinking skills. And that pretty much is being a paramedic in a nutshell. But after I retired from being a paramedic, I'm now editing sound. And it thrills me to no end. Um,
That's awesome.
so um, I know it's, you know, having someone state that what they love doing and what they love doing as a hobby is the same thing as their job. Um, I just I just love it. I mean, um, I've got a small in-home studio that uh, as long as it's got a comfortable chair and decent hardware, I'm happy. Um,
That works.
also music. Love playing music. Um, I I play the Irish wooden flute, which is, let's say, a niche instrument. Um,
Sure.
so I play traditional dance music from Ireland and Scotland, and
Nice.
um, it's one of those. Uh, yeah, um, that's another another fun thing at which I used to make money. Um, so yeah, that's that's kind of where I'm at. Got dogs. Walking dogs. Take dogs on bicycles. Take dogs to the park. Feed dogs. Pet dogs. Let dogs outside. It's
Never ending
um,
cycle.
I think that yeah, I was going to say that kind of rounds out my entire day. A
Nice.
little bit of editing, a little bit of music, and a whole lot of trying to take care of dogs.
That
But
works.
fortunately, my wife is um, very mm, forgiving of my hobbies of locking myself in the studio until all hours of the night, just churning out audio edits of pretty much anything. I love this gig. Um, when Mark and James approached me to do the editing, starting with Murphy's Inc. and then progressing on to Oakbridge, and then a couple of other projects that at the moment shall remain uh, unnamed. That
Okay.
whole pesky NDA thing.
Sure.
Um, and it's exciting. It's really fun work. Um, and just I jumped at the opportunity. Just couldn't pass it up.
That's really cool.
So
I know. So I've been, in and out of the podcasting world for about a little over a decade, and sound editing used to scare the crap out of me because every show I've been a part of, there's always someone that was there to do the editing for me. So I just had to show up, I had to do my thing, and then I could just leave. And then, sometime later, the finished product would come out, which was kind of always cool. But it was always really scary. And when I wasn't doing a podcast, I always wanted to get back into it. But the part that scared me the most was sound editing. I don't know why. I think it's just because, things I'd heard, things I'd been a part of made it sound scarier than it really is. But when it came to this show I'm doing now, I used to not edit this show, but then, circumstances came up to where, hey, you need to edit your own show. And I got really scared about it. But, Google can be very friendly for that kind of thing. And YouTube is a godsend where I got to the point where I'm not an expert at any means, by any means. I don't know how to do it very well. I know how to do it good enough, which works for me. And you don't have to be super precious with it, especially when it comes to, things like this. I'd imagine with, the audio dramas and stuff like that, you have to be a little bit more meticulous with it. But, it's not so bad. And I've been able to do a few fun things just by, Googling how to do this or, like with my old show, the one I had before this one, I was able to figure out how to have the music play and then have it fade out so you could talk over top of it. That
oh
was
yep.
that was probably the trickiest thing I learned how to do, which I think was kind of cool that I was able to get that figured out. But yeah, and you say, a lot of people don't necessarily have their hobby or their job be something they love, but if you love what you do, you never technically work a day in your life, or so they say. So, that's really cool that you're able to not only have a hobby that you love, but you were able to have a hobby that you could essentially turn into a job, which is kind of the dream for everybody, really.
Oh yeah. Granted, there's times when like I'll hear a knock on the door of the studio. My
Mhm.
wife pokes her head in. She goes, "Honey, you've been here all night, haven't you? Because it's time for breakfast." And it's like, oh my gosh, look at the time. I suddenly realize I'm very tired.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, it can really run away. I mean, time, at least for me,
Oh, yeah,
I guess is part of the ADHD thing, but it can
I get it.
really run away.
Yeah.
Absolutely done. I mean, it's the way it works. Um, I use a uh, program which uh, is very similar to Pro Tools. I use a program called Reaper, which is
Okay.
a
Yeah.
multi-track um, and very
Mhm.
inexpensive. I mean, heck, the licensing fee is basically just a couple of coffees at Starbucks, and
Sure.
very what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Competence and a very deep featured program. I mean, Pro Tools is the granddaddy. Sure, I'd love to spend thousands of dollars on a beautiful Pro Tools,
Sure.
um, Apollo hardware, lining the walls. I would love that.
Yeah.
However, I find that a Reaper does a absolutely cromulent job, um, and so the way it works is um, James will send me a link with all the raw recordings. The recording period runs
Mhm.
about 3-4 weeks, depending on actor schedules. So he'll record all these one-on-one recordings. So it's basically a voiceover gig for all these actors. They sit down, they get their script, and then a week later they record it so they can familiarize themselves with the script. And then just basically bam, 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 just walk down the lines. Then they send them to me. I edit them. So when you hear a conversation in the audio dramas that we produce,
Mhm.
it's individual lines, and the actors very rarely work with each other. So basically, it's just a one-on-one, the actor, the microphone, and the director,
Yeah.
and that's it. And so part of the magic is assembling all these singular recordings into dialogue, group discussion, you know, and then what I love doing is placing the scene inside an environment. So the writers roll their eyes, especially at the beginning of a series. So I'll read through the script and I write them back and just tell them, you've got to tell me, what does the room look like? How many windows are there? Is there carpeting? The furniture. Tell me what the furniture's made of. Is it plain wood? Is it, big comfy leather chair? Tell me, because all those sounds, um, I mean, how the writer describes the room um, will dictate what kind of sounds I use. And if they're like,
Sure.
oh, shoot, I don't know, I get to make the decision. It's like, well, guess what? They're gonna be in a warehouse for this scene. and and so the reverb timing, I mean, I actually do the math. It's like, okay, what's the timing of echoes off the back wall?
Yeah.
How big is the warehouse? And so it's, again, goes back to that um, ADHD, like, what does the warehouse look like? How big is, oh, wow, I bet it's
Yeah.
about 60 feet deep. Oh, and there's boxes like halfway up. So I'll have multiple different reflection surfaces. And so I sit down and calculate what the reverb sounds like, um, and then start adding the sound effects on top of that. I mean, so I have the ambient sounds, and like if it's a warehouse, what does the ventilation system sound like? So you'll hear this room tone underneath. Um, so there's like where I'm sitting now inside the studio, there's a room tone to it.
Yeah.
And if we were just to stop talking and listen, you could hear this room tone. It's not silence, it's just one click above silence. And so,
Yeah.
creating a room tone, creating a reverb environment, and then we start adding the incidental sound effects. Is someone walking? Um, I've got a great um, Foley software because when I was first doing the sound effects for audio dramas, I basically used my wife as a Foley artist. It's like, okay, put on your shoes. They need to be high heels
Yeah.
and on a wooden floor. I'm going to follow you with a shotgun microphone and headphones and a recorder. We're going to record. I need you to take, you know, walk over to the door. And so recorder walking to the door. And Now we need to go outside and walk on the concrete. Great. Now we need to go out and walk on gravel. Change your shoes to sneakers. We're going to do it all over again for a different actor. And I don't want to say she hated it, but she was not fond of it. Anytime I would
Sure.
come up to her with the recording gear and it's like, honey, are you busy? You busy right now? And I need to I need to record you putting ice in a glass and pouring whiskey into a, and she's like, oh God, no.
That's
And
funny.
so I've got software um, for footsteps. It's great. It's all um, tied into a keyboard. So the footsteps, you can set the parameters, like how far away are they from the microphone? What kind of microphone are you using? What kind of shoe? Are they wearing pants? Really? Okay. What kind of pants are they wearing? Are they carrying any? So basically, you can fine tune the sound of footsteps and then just play footsteps on the keyboard, um, which has streamlined a lot of the editing. Um, and then a lot of the sound effects that I can't create because she still has to come in to do like for example, in Oakbridge in the last season, at one point they're playing Dungeons and Dragons with the
Yeah.
multiple dice,
Hmm.
and she had to go into the recording booth and basically just start rolling dice.
So that was
And
just your wife rolling dice.
yes,
That's
yep,
so
yep,
cool.
yep. And so multiple services, multiple mics, so that you can say, okay, this is so and so rolling the dice. Oh, and then another player is going to be rolling the damage with the d6. There you
Yeah.
go. Um, and so all the dice rolls sound different, and where because the recording booth has a window, and every so often she would just stick her head up and look at me out the window with this look of, you're killing me here. You're killing me here. Okay, honey, we
Yeah.
need you to open up the monster manual for D&D and start thumbing through the pages. Thumb through about 12 pages for me. And she's like,
Yeah.
okay. So she's still my Foley talent. So a lot of the sounds you hear in Oakbridge are created here in my studio. Um,
That's really cool.
and other sound effects. Um, I actually subscribe to the library for Sound Deluxe and Todd AO. Um, there's a clearinghouse up in Canada that supplies a lot of those sound libraries. So some of the sounds you hear were recorded by Todd AO or Sound Deluxe, you know, world famous uh, Foley and sound design companies that work for movies. And so I had access to those libraries, and which made all the difference in the world. It's like, oh, I need the sound of one of those Vietnam era Huey helicopters, coming in for a strafing run.
Yeah.
Boom, there it is in the library, because there is no way that I'm going to be able to create that sound in
Yeah,
house.
I couldn't imagine your wife would be real excited to try and make that one.
So, honey, yeah, I need you to fly this helicopter.
That's
She
awesome.
just, once again, she would just roll her eyes and jump in and do it. But yeah, um, so the other thing we do, I mean, we also have parts in the Oak Bridge as well. I play the role of Ernie. She plays the role of Mildred,
Oh, that's
and
fantastic.
it's
I
like
didn't
one of those.
realize that.
Oh my God, we've been typecast, haven't we? Um, the older married couple, Mildred, Mildred, what's
That's
wrong?
so
Um,
great.
so which is, every so often, she'll hear her voice when I'm auditioning like the rough drafts.
Yeah.
Um, and she'll just kind of look over and go, that look. Like, oh God. Um, because one of the things we do, which I recommend if you're working in sound, is take a rough draft of your final mix. Like, okay, I think okay, I'm in the ballpark here. You make a rough draft mix down, and then you take it out to the car and play it on your car stereo while you're driving around, because that
Good idea.
is the humilitron, as they say.
Yeah.
It will reveal every fault that you didn't hear through headphones, because it's like, oh, my headphones are a perfect listening environment, but you put it through the car stereo and you're driving around, and you realize all the faults are now grievously apparent. Like, ugh, oh God, that
Yeah.
sounds awful. Um, so she has to drive me around while I audition a rough draft and make notes. Um, Again, it's just one of those, okay, I'll get the keys, honey, sure. Um, and So she's very much a part of the sound design, um, as talent and a driver. Um,
Nice.
so, yeah, I mean, which, if for sound editing, yeah, put it on a Bluetooth phone or a USB stick, however you get your sound into your car,
Yeah.
and go for a drive. And
That's interesting.
you will hear your mix differences, for example, on your headphones or over your studio monitors. You listen for the balance of, there's you as a host, and then you have your guest. Sounds great. Sounds great in the studio. You take it out to the car and realize all of a sudden that the guest is about 8 dB quieter than you thought. Because when you boil it down, when people listen to these things, they're
Yeah.
usually driving somewhere.
Hmm.
They're driving to work. It's drive time. They're going out on a trip to Costco in the next town over. And so what do? They dial up a podcast. They dial up an audio drama on their phone and listen, um, to pass the time away.
Yeah.
I mean, the other listening environment, is, you earbuds or headphones. Hardly
That makes
anyone
sense.
listens on speakers anymore. And yet, I'll admit, when I mix, I have, um, a stack of speakers, a subwoofer. So basically, it's a beautiful listening environment, with really good speakers. And who's going to sit around and listen to an audio drama or a podcast over, a stereo system essentially from 1980? With great speakers. Look at this, I got a cassette player. um, and they're going to listen over their phone with, earbuds or, headphones or their car stereo.
Yeah.
Um, or, some people even just dial up a podcast or, an audio drama in our case, and just put it on the phone speakers and just set the phone down, on the table and listen that way. And so it's not, I mean, as people who produce audio, we just need to accept that people listen to our end results in a less than ideal environment. So, a lot of the mixing I do, there is a finesse to it. Like, I would just have this faintest sound, like, okay, it's nighttime, they're inside a room. We're just going to put crickets outside this window, which is to the right.
Yeah.
Very faint, because it's going through the glass and through the curtains. Very faint crickets.
Hmm.
Nobody's going to hear that. But I still put it in anyway. And every once in a while, I would get note from James going, dude, I just heard the crickets. Those are awesome. It's like, yes,
That's
yes.
awesome. Like your own
um,
Easter eggs.
e- exactly, exactly. And some of the sound things are Easter eggs, where um, I'll throw in a sound, um, sometimes not intentionally, but I'm listening. And it's like, wait a minute, that's I hear people talking in the next room in this particular soundtrack, and it's okay. Um, so there's um, there's just so much in the audio drama, and I really
Yeah.
love making it a sound-rich environment. Um, there's dramatic readings where where you'll listen to a dramatic reading, um, and they'll have occasional sound effects, like suddenly there was a gunshot, bang, and it's like, yeah, but you don't hear any of the sounds leading up to that,
Yeah.
um, like the person slowly pulling a gun out of the holster, you know, pulling the slide back, dropping a shell into the receiver, and bang. I mean, that in Oakbridge, there's a scene where the sheriff is out in the woods and he's basically in a bush hiding from the monster. And he does that slow draw very quietly, racks around into the chamber, aims, slow cock, bang. Um, and so that was, you listen to it in the car, and a
Yeah.
lot of that goes missing, but I can't have it any other way. I mean, it
That's
still
fair.
sounds really great on earbuds. Um, so yeah, the building it up is a process. When we first start out, like I said, I pester the writers every single scene.
Mm.
You got to set the stage for me, because
Sure.
what I do is I do all these presets.
Hmm.
I create a template inside my workstation. So the template gets created. I start creating the sounds, creating the reverbs. So the first episode of a series takes forever. It's just
Sure.
putting the pieces together. Like, here's the sounds that I want. I'll drop in sounds, listen to it. No, no, I don't like that. Then tweak the sounds, tweak the reverb, and then once that's settled and James, as the director, is happy with the sounds,
Hmm.
I lock it down so that in subsequent episodes, like, oh, we're back in Jack's apartment. Here's, we're just going to call up that template, drop it in. There's the reverb, there's the room tone. He's got a television that's kind of, as from the listener's point of view, the television is kind of off to the left a little bit.
Hmm.
Here's his sofa. His sofa is made out of vinyl. When he moves around on the sofa, it does that sort of embarrassing, squelchy vinyl sofa
Yeah.
sounds. Um, his refrigerator, there's a linoleum floor when he walks up to the fridge. Uh, and it's X number of steps from his fridge to the sofa,
Hmm.
and so all that gets laid into the template, um, as well as like I said, I do footstep Foley using keyboard now, which is, oh God, thank you, thank you. Um,
Yeah.
and so I just create the sound of his footsteps in his apartment, save that as a preset, so that when it's time to have him walk around the apartment, it's like, okay, he's walking around on carpet, goes into the kitchen, switch over to linoleum. Um, and so, yeah, once the template gets created, assembly goes so much faster. And so I'll receive the rough files from James. I'll start editing those down, selecting the best takes, um, which is once I get the template created, that's the longest part. Just listening to all the takes.
Sure.
If somebody has 8 different versions of a line, I just sit there and it's like, listen to all 8 versions of that single line, listen to it again. Then I start comping the uh, dialogue together. Like, okay, I'll comp take 5 from this, but he's talking to so and so down here. I'll take 3 from that, and then start comping together a dialogue. And every actor has their own channel in the template. Um, so I worked on one audio drama that wound up having like 57 different actors.
Oh
So
wow.
the template just had this whole like 57 channels of different actors.
Oh wow.
And that's one of the problems. Uh, I mean, I'm sure that you as a podcaster get to hear different room environments for your guests. For
Hmm.
example, a guest will be for sounding like they're in their bathroom, that kind of a thing, where it's
Yeah.
very room resonant, and then I'm in a studio with a professional grade broadcasting mic, the sound treatment everywhere in the studio, so that's going to sound markedly different.
Yeah, I even had one that I talked
And
to
in
where
Oakbridge,
he was in a car driving. So I've talked to people all over the place. One guy sounded like he was in his bathroom. One guy was in his car driving. Another one was in a hotel room. A lot of them just been in different rooms of the house. So yeah.
yeah, and different microphones. I mean,
Yeah.
I was going to say, who travels around with a professional mic setup? And I suddenly realized, it's like, wait, I do. So in my uh, in my backpack, I've got a small, um, like if I'm going absolutely minimalist, um, I can record on my iPhone with a microphone from Shure called an MV88, the
Mhm.
old school one, in case anyone's looking for it. They don't make the old school MV88 anymore. It's been new and improved, and in my opinion, ruined it. But hey, um, the MV88 just plugs into the bottom of the iPhone, and I've recorded a lot of sound effects, a lot of um, like Foley. If it's like, okay, it has to, this is taking place in a diner, so I'll take my setup into a diner and just uh, set up the MV88 with the iPhone, very inconspicuous. Set it up and record 10 minutes of diner conversation. Go in, and if there's any, what's the word I'm looking for, recognizable phrases, like if someone says, and then I locked him out of the house, ha ha ha, I'll go in and edit it out, like, so you don't hear any actual, so it's just this background murmur where you can't hear anything.
Yeah.
So I have if I'm traveling anywhere, I do have a recording set up with me, even if it's really basic. But a lot of times I'll take um, a an MV7B, which is the basically the mobile USB version of the venerable Shure SM7, which is one of the benchmarks for broadcasting, just a wonderful broadcast mic. So I'll take that. I'll take a small handheld recorder, and that's my basic recording setup. So um, I like going prepared, because I don't know, like how many times have you gone someplace and you say, wow, this sounds really cool. Let's say you can hear a choir practicing in a church or something as you're
Yeah.
walking by. It's like, I want to record that. And so I'll make recordings just as I'm, you just out and about. It's like, ooh, that sounds great. I'll record it. Will I ever get to use it? Chances are no. But it's it sound like like Tsar Nicholas. It pleases me. It pleases me to go out and do these recordings. If I hear an owl late at night, sometimes I'll sneak out of bed, plug in the microphone, go outside, record an owl at like 3 in the morning. That's the kind of stuff that I just love doing. And now I've only got paid a lot to do it, but no, that's okay.
That's
I still
okay.
love doing it, and by golly, that's 90% of the battle right there.
There you go. Now it's interesting, all the different little bits and pieces that go into the sound effects and the audio editing because a really good friend of mine, he actually one of his favorite things to do is he's a Foley artist and there's a play that
Ooh,
they
yeah.
do every Christmas time where he'll pop out his box of gadgets and gizmos and he'll make all the Foley noises like live on the stage play, which is it's so fun to watch. And it actually was enough that my youngest daughter was interested in watching the show just to see what he was going to do next. And you never really think about all the little nuances, like, well, you've got a woman walking, what kind of shoes is she wearing? What kind of clothing is she wearing? Because really that is important. And you don't really think about how important that is because, it has, if you have a woman walking in high heels that's, wearing a skirt, you can't just have somebody, in high heels wearing pants because the sound is going to be completely different. It's really interesting that just certain things that you would never really think about are definitely really important that you bring up. It's, especially with, the room, how the room looks, how many steps from here to there. It's just it's just things you would never normally think about. And yeah, when it comes to carrying around really good microphones, I think you and probably Mr. Connor Howard, aka Deputy Jack Harris from Oakbridge, are probably
Yep.
two of the people I've talked to that have had probably the nicest microphones. So yeah, it's interesting because you'll just see people who will just use the microphone that's on their phone, they'll just use the one that's on their laptop, they'll just have, whatever one that's on their headset of their computer headphones, whatever. But
Right.
that's
And
a lot of detail.
when I listen to these record, because we have, uh, I forget, I did know how many actors we had for Oak Bridge. We had about probably 20 of them, 20 different voices, I would say,
Mhm.
just off the top of my head. And every one of them, because they're all across the country and
Yeah,
Canada, um, and so every one of them has a different setup. Every one of them is recording in a different room.
yeah,
And I would listen to some of them, and it's like, I can't use this audio. I mean, I have a lot of good post processing software. I mean, a lot of it,
sure.
where I can manipulate someone's room environment to try to alleviate like a lot of room echo. I can go in and surgically remove that echo, but then it introduces phase cancellation, and
Yeah.
it just
There's only
so
so
there's only
much
so much I
tweaking
can
you can
do.
do.
Yep.
Yeah, I know
And
with
I
my old
I would
show, I had a guy on my show who he would get in his microphone and he would breathe a lot. And he had a chair that he rocked back and forth in a bunch and it squeaked a bunch. And I was like, even when he wasn't talking, he would never mute himself for some reason. And so you could pick up all the chair squeaks, you could pick up all the really loud breathing in the microphone. I'm like, I can't, I edit out as much as I can, but like there's only so much you can do.
and the software that does that is really expensive.
Yeah.
The and so every so often I will get a knock on the door where once again wife, the manager of the household, sticks her head in with the credit card bill, and she's like, "Honey, did you just spend X amount of dollars with Isotope? Is that a business you do? Is that a business you do business with? It's like, yes, you gotta knock it off or get paid a lot more. Um, so, yeah, I mean, I can manipulate up to a point, but there's some of the talent they'll send us, or rather, James will send me the roughs, and I'll listen to them, and it's like, I can't use this. I
Oh,
can
man.
only go so far in fixing it, and I'll send a note back to James going, we got to redo this, and we got to have a chat with, XYZ actor because they're, for all intents and purposes, recording in their kitchen, and I can hear it.
Yeah.
Um, the very first, the very first gig I ever had working on an audio drama, um, the very first recording we did, the actress was in there's basically in a room using her uh, like the wired earbuds that had the little wart on it that you could talk into,
Hmm.
and it's like, nope, 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 we, nope. And so she wound up getting a decent mic setup, um, and anytime she records, it's wonderful. She goes into a closet and records her lines just sitting in a closet, and she sounds silky, she sounds professional, and telling the actors, like, hey, you really can't be recording in your living room.
Yeah.
um, you need to go into your clothes closet. Go into your clothes closet. Just take a, TV tray table into the clothes closet, set up a laptop with your microphone and whatever interface, your script, and just do your lines inside the closet, and it sounds so much better. Um, and the difference in the microphones, um, like you said, Connor uses a fabulous setup. Just he just sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Um, and so since he's present in 60-70% of the scenes, um, all the other actors um, have to measure up to that level. So for a while, when I was stationed in Nevada, we had a collection of microphones at the radio station where we would mail the microphone setup to an actor because I appreciate the fact that not everyone can go out and, like drop a few $100 on a decent mic setup. So we would
Yeah.
lend out these mic setups, with a nice boom, some headphones, and a high quality mic. Um, and then they would, you know, mail it back because we would send a return UPS slip with them, and they would just send it back, and we find another actor who needs a mic set up, send it out again, and we found that to work real well. A little awkward, kind of like, you sound awful. Let me send you a let me send you a microphone, and it was effective. It was effective. I mean, effective enough that a lot of people. Uh, the one grand thing about our audio dramas is that we started off um, essentially like a community theater project,
That
just
makes
as the
sense.
community theater was all across the world.
Yeah.
And so we realized that people signing up, a lot of them weren't professional voiceover artists. And being able to hear these people where they had the right voice for the part, it's like, ooh, they're untrained, but we can do this. Let's get them the right equipment. Let's get them into the right environment to record. And a lot of these voice talents have really come into their own.
That's cool.
And some of them have even said, I want to do this for real. I want to do this as like a job. I want to get paid for doing this. I want to, further my abilities as a voice actor. And it's been grand hearing that because, we send out microphones and then they would send it back saying, I just got a C414 mic and I don't need this anymore. It's like, oh yeah, it sounds great. Um, and being able to hear over the course of a series, um, let's say season one, just how people settle in and the improvement. And like I said at the beginning, this recording sessions only take about 3 to 4 weeks. But
Yeah.
even over those 3 to 4 weeks, hearing people settle in, hearing them develop the character, um, because when you first start off, it's like, I don't really know what the director is looking for with the character. I've read the script. Here's what I imagine my character kind of sounding like. Here's what I think, the nuance of their speaking voices. What do they sound like when they're shouting? And then, the first recording session, James is like, yeah, try, toning it down. Is there any way that you can, flatten out the the accent, um, and see if you can just flatten it out? So they'll develop the character as they go, and then by the last recording session, they've improved their speaking environment. They've improved the microphone. They've come into their own with the character because when you first start out and as a, voiceover talent, you have the script and you're reading the script out loud. And the problem with reading the script out loud, it sounds like you're reading a script out loud. It doesn't sound natural.
Right.
And so they would develop the skill to, read through the script, develop how they want to, how their character line wants to progress throughout the scene. And then, still reading the script, but it sounds so much better because people are just settling into settling into their character, just getting a little more at ease. I mean, because that's one of the things when you're sitting down and working either in radio, in, for example, in television, um, if you're recording an audiobook, whatever, it's just you and this mic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the microphone that I'm using is an RE20. The RE20 is a big microphone. You just kind of stare down the barrel of this microphone,
Yeah.
just just sitting there staring back at you, and it can be intimidating. And
Sure.
I've trained DJs for the radio where they come in for their first shift and they just sit down and they're just staring at this microphone, and it's like, you'll get used to it. The microphone is your friend,
Yeah.
and so it's just you, the microphone, the recorder, and that's it. Um, and of course, James on the other end,
Yeah. Sure.
uh, acting as the director. And so once you sort of get past that, sort of mental, oh my God, what am I doing? this is this is awful. I can't do this. With the microphone staring back at you. Then once you get used to it, and then you hear your voice on the air or on the podcast, um, and you're like, I can do better. I know I can do better. And the next time they have the recording session, it sounds so much better, and you can just hear them improving. And that's part of the magic of it, I guess,
Yeah.
because it's we've progressed from the idea of community theater in audio drama format. We've progressed beyond community theater into a viable production team, where the voice talent, where uh, the director, the writer, everyone functions as a team, and it's amazing the improvements that you can hear, or at least I can hear. Um, and uh, I mean, that's part of the magic of doing this is just
Yeah.
hearing everyone work as a team. I mean, it's why I started off working in professional theater before quitting and becoming a paramedic. It's just that magic of teamwork producing this ephemeral product. I mean, you know, we we don't have anything physical to show for it other than the sounds of our voices. So um, that is so weird. Your green screen blocked out your bottle.
Oh yeah, my
Just for
my
listen.
Zoom
Yeah,
background. It
my
doesn't like my bottle
uh,
very much.
I know that's
Kind of
weird.
comes in a little bit.
Chris Chris held up a bottle for those of you obviously who can't see. Chris held up a bottle to take a drink, and the bottle
I promise
disappears with the green screen. So
it's here, I promise. Ah, it still doesn't want to show up. That's weird. Go back. Oh, a little bit right there. Here we go.
yeah.
Kinda.
So the bottle is kind of dark, a green screen color. So I
Yeah.
wasn't sure what you were doing there. I'm like, Chris, you okay, man? You
Nope, just
okay?
getting a drink.
Just getting a drink from this invisible bottle.
Yeah,
So, so well,
the magic of
let's
special
see.
effects.
There you go.
So
Um,
I wanted to ask, we've mentioned a lot about, teamwork in the production of Oakbridge. Coming up very soon, you guys are going to start work on auditions for season two.
yeah, in a
Um,
couple of days,
which
Thursday.
is
Yeah.
which is very exciting. And it's really exciting because, I've talked to Ashley Dean a little bit. She was on the show. I talked to Connor.
Mm.
He was also on the show. And what I really like is you guys aren't necessarily looking for people who are, very experienced voice actors. You're looking for pretty much anybody that wants to give it a shot, which I think is cool because doing something like this is something I've always kind of wanted to do. So I actually threw my hat in for an audition. Um,
Hey, there you go.
so I'm pretty excited. I'm auditioning for one of the new characters. I'm kind of excited for. Um, what are some tips that you would give to, let's say give to me or to new people who are wanting to get into voiceover? I'm not necessarily looking to get into voiceover. I just think it'd be fun to kind of, be a part of one of these projects. So
Well,
what
you
kind
say
of
that now.
what kind of advice would you give to myself or any new person who are wanting to kind of go in this field?
First off, if you don't take the first step, you're not going to get anywhere. You got to
Good advice.
put one foot in front of the other. If you've never done this before, um, but you'd love to give it a shot, find a vocal coach. Um, for example, if you just want to sort of like do it sort of casually,
Yeah,
I say you don't really need a vocal coach. Just listen to your favorite podcast, listen to um, audio dramas, and pick out voices you like. It's like, oh, I like the way they sound. Why do they sound that way? You're not going to sound like them. Um, you're
sure,
not going to sound like Kate Blanchett. You're just
sure.
not going to sound like that. Um, so don't try to imitate another actor. Just be aware of how they deliver their lines, the fluidity. In other words, the techniques they're using. Don't try to uh, Dan Castellaneta, Homer Simpson. Yeah, yeah. No, we don't want
Yeah,
people signing up for the audition and then do their best Clint Eastwood impression. No, we want you to sound like yourself.
sure.
Um, and when you get the sides, which is the a side is in an audition, a side is the mini script they give you to read for the audition. Um, Read through it uh, real quick. It's like, okay, I think the character is feeling kind of sullen. Project that emotion through your voice and um, sort of become the voice of the character. The character has no voice.
Sure.
These characters are mute until you step up to the mic and give them a voice and give them uh, purpose and meaning through your voice. And the for people who are just starting out, like I said, sign up for auditions. We've got an audition coming up for Oakbridge, and I'm not sure when you're going to air this podcast, but if you go on to Instagram and look for Oakbridge in Instagram, there's actually a notice for the audition. Um, I think some people already have it out on Facebook for the audition information, and just fill out the form. You just scan the QR code, fill out the form like I want to audition. You know, I do it like at night or early morning, and um, we'll get you a, or I should say, not we, they, because as the sound guy, I don't do anything with auditions, but um, the production team will get you a slot for the audition, and then you just sign in and do it. Um, it's all done over Zoom, so it's I don't want to say a piece of cake because obviously everyone's experience is different.
Sure.
We have a lot of people signing up for a handful of roles. I mean, that's one of the things with auditions, as any actor will tell you. There's a lot of no's before you get a yes.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but you only do it, you only get there by going out and
Taking the
doing
first step.
auditions. And then if the bug bites you, which has happened with a lot of people, all
Sure.
of a sudden it's like, I, I really like doing this. Why am I not getting these auditions? Hmm, what do I need to do to improve my chances at succeeding in an audition? That's where you hire the vocal coach and they can say, okay, let's start working on your voice. Your delivery is too slow, too pedantic. Let's work on speeding up your delivery. You know, how you skip over the surface like a stone as opposed to plodding through deep water. Um, I speak from experience on that, which
Sure.
was my vocal coach's first statement to me is like, oh, God, you just kind of drag along like a turtle. Come on, speed it up, speed it
Wow.
up, speed it up. It's like, well, and the vocal coach can be very helpful, especially when it comes to an audition you really want to get, and start thinking about what you would like to do with your voice. There is an ever expanding need for audiobooks, for anima- animation, for video games. You know, you don't have to go out and uh, try out for, cinematic roles or anything like that. You don't have to, oh, for Pete's sake, you don't have to sound like movie guy in a world. um,
Yeah,
so you, matter of fact, a lot of directors and vocal coaches, if you come in with the in a world where you and they're not looking for that, and they'll tell
right.
you to knock it off.
No,
They're not looking for movie guy. Occasionally there is a part for movie guy out there, but as my vocal coach said, it, the parts are few and far between if you have that rich, resonant voice. Whether you have a male directed voice or a female directed voice,
sure.
there's not a lot of room for, or not a lot of roles for people with voices that are deep, full, and resonant. Because there's only so many Gandalf roles out there.
Sure.
Um, and so in advertising, they want people to sound normal. There's a lot of skill behind sounding normal,
Sure.
but you want to have a voice that people will identify with. The uh, commercial voices, that there's a lot of skill involved with reading for advertising, but uh, uh, and that comes with practice and vocal coaching. If you have a role you really want to get, oh my God, I'm going to try out for this video game that's just coming out. You get a hold of a vocal coach and you're like, I got an audition day after tomorrow. Here's the side that they sent me. Can you help me work through this? And they will, it makes a night and day of difference where they can sit down and work through all these different nuances. They're like, so you'll deliver the line, and then the vocal coach will listen and go, that's nice, but let's do it better. Try this kind of nuance. What's going on in your mind as the character, not as the actor, but as the character? What's happening um, in your mind as the character as you're delivering this line? This this is the crucial line. You need to hit this line perfectly. Um, and so, and then that's when you're really getting into the weeds as far as auditioning. But as I said at the beginning, if you don't take that first step, you're not going to get any roles at all.
Sure.
So just signing up and going out and auditioning, um, the odds are hardly ever in your favor um, because there's a lot of people trying for a role.
Sure.
But if you have that voice that gives the character life, if you can bring the character to life, if you can get inside the skin of this character and just try to imagine what the character's feeling or doing, um, then um, you have a chance.
That's
And
very
that's it.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I've always been told I used to work in a call center for many years, and I was always told that I had a voice for radio, and I've never really tried to put it to use for anything really. So I thought, what the heck? I'm not getting any younger. Might as well just give it a shot.
exactly.
Yeah,
And if your if your listeners are like, well, yeah, I don't know, that just sounds kind of cutthroat, just going out and doing auditions and getting rejected, and I really can't handle that. Um, Getting rejected, rejected, rejected. Oh, hey, accepted. But it's not the role I wanted. Ah, darn. That's part of the process.
sure.
Um, as expanding your horizons as a voiceover talent. Think about community radio. There are community radio stations all across the country that need people on the air. Whether you're a news reader, even if you're doing something simple like morning traffic today, we've got a tie up on I-75. Everyone's trying to escape the hurricane, so be
Yeah,
very careful when you're going out. Just keep in mind it's going to be crazy driving. You just go to a community radio station, uh, talk to the program director, and it's like, I would love to get on the air. I'd love to help you out as a volunteer. And that may be a way to find the sound of your voice,
yeah,
find how your voice works when you're in an environment where it's just you and the microphone and thousands of listeners. But
mhm.
when you're speaking on a mic at a radio station, you are speaking to thousands of people, one person at a time. And no matter what time it is, no matter who it is, no matter what show you're doing, if you're playing music, if you're doing news, there's somebody out there at any given time who needs to hear your voice right now. Whatever you're saying will impact them. And whether you're introducing a song and saying why you really like this song, it's going to mean something to somebody somewhere, even if you're just doing it in passing. Um, So the power of the voice as voice talent, the power of your voice. I mean, I don't have a quote unquote professional sounding voice. I don't sound like, why, yes, I sound like, fill in the blank. I sound like Ian McKellen. No, I don't. Um, I have just a generic voice that
Sure.
has had a lot of work to sound even more generic and pleasant on the air, but I have a quote unquote normal voice. And uh, and somebody out there needs to hear that. Somebody out there, um, may have something going on. I'm on the radio. I say something, and boom, it means something to them. And I've pretty much talked myself into a circle because it's like I've already said that. Oh
No,
my
you're
God.
okay.
Uh, the and so developing your voice, you don't have to sound like Ian McKellen. You don't have to sound like James Earl Jones. That'd be nice. And just, yes, I'm the voice of Darth Vader. Yeah, that'd be great. But
Right.
there's only one James Earl Jones, and that's James Earl Jones. And
Sure.
there's no way anybody else is going to be able to fill his shoes. So fill your own shoes.
There you
You
go.
got shoes, fill them. Develop your own voice. Develop the characters that you sign up for, and you get the character. It's like, okay, great. And then you start working with the director. You start working with the script writer, and most importantly, you start working with your character. Words on a page. The writer writes these words down. They have an idea of what the character sounds like. The
Sure.
director is breaking the scene apart, trying to figure out, how does the arc work? How do we want this arc to progress throughout the scene? They have an idea of what the character sounds like, but the person most important for the sound of the character is the voice talent. They're the ones who develop this character, and with guidance from the script writer and with guidance from the director, as far as like, the emotion, because like in movies sometimes we record out of sequence, so the voice talent will be delivering lines and the director will say, okay, just sort of give you a heads up, keep in mind your best friend has just been gunned down and you're dealing with the aftermath, um, and you're on the phone talking to the pizza delivery guy, and that gives the voice talent's like, okay, I'm going to be distracted. I'm under stress. And so the director can fine tune how you approach the character scene by scene. But as far as developing the character, that's up to the talent. And that's part of the magic of it. Um, where, how many times have you sat down and read a book and you can almost, in your mind, you can almost hear the character speaking, and they have a voice, they have a specific voice, in your mind. Like, oh, this particular character is going to sound kind of squeaky and hesitant. And then all of a sudden, you can start taking that imagination to characters you get assigned to, um, and they become yours. Um, and probably another little thing with the audition, you can go in and audition for this one character. You're like, yeah, man, I really want this character. This is the character I want. This is my voice. I know this character inside and out. You don't get it. But instead, you get an entirely different character. And yeah, that's can be disappointing,
Sure.
but it's a new character, it's a new voice. It's a new um, it's a new experience where you've got to once again, you've got to give this character life. Even if it's not the character you originally wanted, hey, you're still there. You're still a part of the ensemble.
Yep.
And the voice that you lend to this character um, improves the overall product. Where the end result, you're part of this team, this ensemble, even if it's just you, the microphone, and James, and you don't get to hear the other actors until the final result. Still, that there's a magic to it. Um,
That's true.
so, so basically, I just spent what the last 20 minutes rambling around how to
That's
deal with
okay.
auditions. Um,
Okay.
and to be honest,
I didn't even think about community radio. That's a good idea. Plus, one of my favorite podcasts is an audio drama that is a community radio host in a fictional community town. So that I never even thought about that.
welcome to Night Vale.
Yes. Yep.
I was
That's
going
the
to
one.
say,
That's the one.
yep, welcome to Night Vale.
I
Remarkable,
love that show.
remarkable audio drama. Just
It's
they they
fantastic.
they've worked wonders with that show. Um, and and so yeah, so if you're someone interested in becoming more involved with your voice, listen to podcasts like that.
Yep.
Welcome to Night Vale. Amazing what they can do just with the power of their voice
It's true.
and the power of the script writing. Beautiful
Yep.
scripts. The uh, the voice of Cecil. Can't think of the actor's name.
It's Cecil. Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think his name is Cecil. I want to say Cecil Baldwin, but it's not Cecil Baldwin. That's the name of the character. I can't even. Oh man, it's gonna be now.
well,
Voice
then
of
again, he
Cecil.
is the character, so that when you hear that voice, it's like, oh, that's Cecil. You don't even think like, oh, that's an actor playing Cecil. No, that's just Cecil.
Right.
So listen to podcasts like that. Um, there's wonderful audio drama podcasts out there, um, and old radio shows. Sometimes just dialing in those old radio shows, the H.G. Wells Mercury Theater presents, and you listen to how they used to do it in the 30s. And they
Yeah.
used to do it live. They used to gather around the single microphone and read the script. These incredible actors, like doing The Shadow. Um,
Hmm.
the Shadow knows, and you just read through it and listen to what they're doing, and sometimes you can even find the scripts, and you're just reading through with them on these scripts, and you're like,
Yeah.
that is so amazing. They just did this live. There was no outtakes. There's no, oh, let's redo it, take two. No, it was live. So listen to all these different voices. Listen to the good ones. Listen to the not so good ones,
Yeah.
and just sort of relish the idea that this is voice talent giving these characters a life. Um, and so that's, for me, that's the magic of any kind of voice work.
Yeah.
Even in advertising, once you really start honing it down and you're listening to it, there's more and more AI out there. You're competing, sadly, against a juggernaut of fake talent that doesn't cost producers much of anything to use. So they'll just run a script through AI. And once you start developing an ear for the nuance of how a real actor sounds, a real voice, the AI doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
The AI can't respond like an actual actor. An AI can't give that nuance of the director telling you your friend has just been shot, you're having a tough time of it, and now you're on the phone with the pizza guy. How do you approach that? Yeah, AI can't cut it.
Sure.
And I detest hearing an artificial. They sound pretty good. They sound pretty good. Yeah. pretty good. I think
Close, but it's not quite the same.
close, but yeah, it's the uncanny valley of voice,
Yeah.
where it just doesn't sound right. Like the YouTube videos or the TikTok videos that has the AI generated voice,
Like the voice
and
filter, yeah.
and you'll hear the AI reading the script or whatever, and it'll put a pause in exactly the wrong place.
Yep.
And you're listening to it and you're going, "Oh, that is horrible. Oh God, that's just terrible." But hey, that's just me. The the ability to put a pause in the right place, AI kind of
Or the
doesn't quite
inflection on
have
the
that yet.
words, they do the wrong inflection.
Oh gosh, yeah,
Yeah.
yep, yep. And so, as an aspiring voice actor for whoever's listening, um, yep, you got to take up arms against a sea of AI voices and help preserve the magic of the human voice. It's up to you. Pick up your sword, pick up your microphone, get out there, start auditioning, start working on getting your voice out there because somewhere, someone needs to hear your voice.
True. And I will definitely do what I can to get this out in time for the auditions, and I'll make sure to put the link in the show notes just so we can help get the word out. I'll share it on my social media so
Oh, okay.
everyone who might want to know can know. And I did look,
Yeah. So it's
it is Cecil Baldwin that does the voice of Cecil from Night Vale.
hmm, that's just an amazing show.
I'm not ashamed to admit that there's been a few episodes that made me tear up. It was that good. So good.
Oh yeah. Let's see
Um,
other audio dramas to listen. Yeah, if you check it out, um, along the lines of Welcome to Night Vale, where it's just kind of really creepy with fabulous voice talent, fabulous writing. Uh, Limetown,
ooh, yeah, I've listened to that one. That one's
LIME
very good.
TOWN.
That one's very good.
Oh my gosh, that one had me riveted,
Yep.
and 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 that one basically said to me, like, you want to do this, you want to do this for real, you
Yeah.
want to be a part of something like this, because that writing, the woman who plays the lead character
Hmm.
was phenomenal.
I agree.
um and and so yeah, that's another fun audio drama podcast to listen. I could just go on and on, like, oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and then you need to listen to
Yep.
this, listen to that.
Yeah.
um tune into your favorite um audiobooks. Find readers that you really like listening to. Hear how they develop characters. Hear how they do character voices. These are all great tips just to just start relishing in the sound of the human voice. So,
Yes.
um,
All right,
so,
sir. So
so,
I appreciate you being a part of the show today. Is there anywhere that people can stay up to date with stuff that you're working on that we can so we can see the stuff that's coming from you in the future? Social media or a website or anything like
um,
that?
uh, I really don't maintain a social media presence,
Okay.
other than to lurk. Um, Stay tuned to 97 to Now Productions. Um, I am working very closely with 97 to Now Productions, and they're the ones who produce Murphy's Inc., Oakbridge, and a couple of other uh, projects that are in the pipeline, which are really exciting,
Very cool.
that I'm eager to take part in, but um, a little too soon to start mentioning what they are. But
Oh,
there's
that's
some
just fine.
exciting developments um, coming down the pipe, and we will um, get those out onto the 97 to Now website and social media once they start coming to fruition.
Very cool.
And yeah, that's as Forrest Gump says, That's all I'm going to say about that.
That works. And I'm actually hoping to get James on the show hopefully soon. Whenever we can make it
Ooh, that'd
happen.
be awesome.
There's a lot of people from Oakbridge that would like to be on the show, and I'm trying to make sure we get everybody accommodated. I know. I'm talking to Monica Wolfkill, not next week, but the week
Hmm.
after. I'm very excited to talk to her. But I'm very excited to talk to everybody. But yeah, I'm very excited. Oakbridge is I once I heard about it from Ashley, we were able to link up on social media. I binged through the whole first season and it's just fantastic. I'm looking forward to talking to whoever wants to talk to me. But
Oh,
you
that's
know,
awesome.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's a. Hey, come here, you. Come here, wait. Um, this. Just got to introduce Mitzi.
Aw,
Mitzi the dog, who you hear barking throughout uh, Ernie and Mildred's house. This is Mitzi.
that's
Yes, it is
awesome.
her bark. Um, she is. She actually has an IMDb page.
That's awesome.
So she's been in several productions because she just has a very unique bark. Um, and yeah, um, when you interview when you interview Monica, make sure to ask her about jam jams.
Okay. I'll make a note of that to ask her for sure. All right, so let's make sure you get out there,
All
listen
right.
to Oak Bridge. If you want to try out for the show, I'll put the links in the show notes so you guys can check it out. It's a great show. I'm excited for the opportunity. You should too, just for fun, whatever you want to do. Um, in closing, I'd like to thank Polygon Horizon for the use of their song Pizza Force. It's a great song. They're a great band. Go check them out on Bandcamp. You can find Fueled by Weird on Instagram and Facebook at just Fueled by Weird. You can find me on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and now on the Spotlight Media GA app, along with the rest of the Stay Weird Network shows, the Nerdy Manroom show with Hassel and Monster, Hassel's Review, and Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food. Now, speaking of the Stay Weird Network, I'm actually wearing my Stay Weird Network shirt today. It's a brand new podcast network dedicated to bringing some awesome back to the internet. You can check us out at Stay Weird Media on YouTube and Instagram and email us at stayweirdmedia@gmail.com. I'd also like to thank my sponsor, The Zone Collectibles in Tifton, Georgia, your one-stop shop for comics, collectibles, and so much more. Now, if you'd like this show, please leave a review and tell your friends because, like Oakbridge, word of mouth is my friend. And remember, kids, life's too short to be normal, so stay weird. Joe, thanks so much for joining me this evening.
You are more than welcome. Thanks for having me. Hey, it was a blast just
Absolutely.
blathering about everything that I do and what I love. So
It was a good time.
thank you, Chris.